In a world where hopium and common sense collide, starring the CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto. Crypto fam, it's your boys, CryptoKeeper, BlockchainCrusader, and we have our good friend tonight, Alex Costa. You know it, World War Bitcoin. What's going on, Alex? How we doing?
That still has to be the coolest name, bro.
What'd you say, Miguel?
That's the coolest name in the crypto space.
Oh, I
World
know.
War Bitcoin. Absolutely.
I know. I think you know what, Alex? I'm thinking if you could get like a pseudo. I don't want to say the word GANG because maybe YouTube won't like that. But you need like a little sign. You know what I'm saying? You need to like be able to like stack. You can like stack a little W, like a little WW. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Like West Side, but something else.
Yeah, like a little thuggish, rugged World War Bitcoin.
There we go.
So crypto fam, smash up the likes, guys. If it's your first time here, make sure that you guys subscribe, do the thing there, let YouTube know you love us. And also Alex's information down below. Make sure that you guys blow up his Twitter. If you guys aren't following World War Bitcoin on Twitter, follow him on Twitter. If you're not following him on YouTube, follow him or subscribe to him on YouTube. If you're not following him on TikTok, well, you know what? If you're not following him on TikTok, you're just wrong. All right. So let's fix all that and let's have some fun. So without further ado, let's start off with a little market watch. Let's see what's going on in the crypto markets. And I think people will probably be a little bit excited today. So crypto markets globally, $1.75 trillion. That's trillion with a T. We're up 4.43%. Guys, it's green. We don't see this color often recently, so let's enjoy it while we can. Bitcoin's at 38,280. My leverage trade that I got in and out of and back into is up currently, so swinging for the fence this evening. Let's see how that goes. ETH, my baby, my girl, 7.18% up. That's right, 12.39% on the week. That's beautiful. BNB up about 3%. BNB's having trouble reclaiming $400. I'll tell you what. Cardano hanging around like a stable coin now towards $1. Not doing me any favors there. Solana just busted back up over 100. I know a lot of people got wrecked on Solana pretty hard. It bit hard. And Miguel, your favorite, XRP at 61 cents. That is a buy. Miguel, are you a buyer of XRP at 61 cents?
Dude, I wouldn't buy it if it was free.
that's oh boy, that's a whole nother story. We talked about that the other night. If you guys missed the debate with Zach Rector the other night, make sure you check that out. It was dope, super fun. We are actually working on trying to see who we're going to have on this week, so stay tuned for that. And then Polkadot rounding out the top 10 at up 8.28%. So real quick here, let's take a look at, before we let Alex get in and tell us what's going on overall, let's take a quick peek over at Market Cypher here, see what the Cypher has to say. Here we go. All right, Market Cypher. I'm on the 4 hour right now. We've got a little bit of upward momentum here over the course of the day here. We got 4, 8, 12, 6, yeah. So this last day we got some nice upward momentum there. That's always a plus. If we come down to the momentum wave, we have a green dot right here on the momentum wave. That was from about 8 hours ago. That's always positive. And then actually, if we zoom in here, let me zoom in. This is ultimately, we have a nice bit of momentum headed towards the top, money flow on the way up. We've actually, oh shoot, sorry guys, that was my headphones. We've got some bullish momentum going on, guys, and it's looking decent. So that's all I got for a little bit of Market Cypher. Let's talk to the real man that knows what's going on in these markets, Alex Costa. So,
oh, you're me. Okay. That's a joke.
What's dude, just off the just right now, do you have any sort of, are you as confused as I am right now with what the heck is going on with these markets, or is it just me and I'm just a dummy?
It's the thing that I will say, as far as it's very confusing in a sense that we've never seen what we're seeing right now. There's certain things that would indicate that as far as the level of capitulation by short-term holders, that would indicate something that happens at the end of a bull run. That it would be, if we were just looking at short-term holders, it's over.
Right.
But if we're just looking at long-term holders, we are super bullish. And so the difference between how short-term holders and long-term holders are acting, it's insane. We've never ever seen anything like this. What happens at the end of a bull run is that short-term holders and long-term holders both dump their positions. Long-term holders do so on the way up to the peak, and then at the peak, at some point, the selling pressures is too great and it's over. Long-term holders have not sold. They have no interest. They have had no interest in selling. They didn't have. They sold a little bit at the $69,000 peak, but they were waiting for higher prices. And then when it got down to the 50s, zero interest in selling. And then at the same time, short-term holders were dumping really hard. And what I think has just happened is that, a lot of us, myself included, and I would gladly go into reasons why this didn't happen, but we're expecting 6-figure Bitcoin. I have my reasons why I believe that didn't happen, and pretty simple reasons. But once they got a sense, the short-term holders, that wasn't going to happen, it was like this wave of disillusionment came over them, and they dumped hard. All the while, long-term holders were just holding on tight. And so initial thoughts in that regard. Yeah.
So what did happen, right? Because at the beginning of this year, right, all the TA was pointing for 100K Bitcoin, right? The on-chain metrics started to build up and show that, 100K Bitcoin plus is definitely very possible in the cards. But at some point, the TA and the fundamentals kind of split apart. So what happened there?
Yeah, I started shifting about a week after that all-time high, $69,000. I first started focusing on lengthening cycles, and then on December 2nd, I made a video basically saying, "Hey guys, I'm neutral right now." And Bitcoin was still well into the 50s at that time. That was right before that big dump on December 4th. And so should I have been bearish? I don't know, but the big thing that, as far as everything that I looked at, that I saw was, I did share some charts on my channel about this. If you looked at United States and Europe, those two cohorts, there was more buying than there was selling from the United States, North America, I should say, and from Europe. Over that whole time, there was more buying than selling. But if you looked at Asia, something dramatic was going on in Asia, and I would probably pinpoint it mostly to China. Some people point to India with regulations and things like that. But the big thing that I was seeing, they dumped hard. I mean, if you could look at the chart, I don't have those charts with me on my computer right now, but they dumped really hard. And so what I think happened is that I pinned it down to, it in my mind at least, was several exchanges in Huobi and OKEX in particular, shutting down their mainland China operations. And basically Chinese people they had to choose, do we hold this thing that could be flat out banned in our country, or do we just sell it right now? And they, for the most part, just decided, all right, we're going to sell. So that killed the momentum.
Yeah. So my next question would be, right, with the on-chain metrics, we're seeing that Bitcoin's illiquid supply is getting higher and higher and higher and higher, but yet the price is not reflecting that at all, right? We're seeing we have this very bearish sentiment. Where do you fall on that, right? Why do you think that's happening? And do you think that this year is going to be a bullish year, or we're just going to keep with the negative sentiment, even though the on-chain metrics are bullish?
Well, how about I can share a few things from my screen. So I'll wait, I suppose. All right, here we go. This is my computer. And so here's the first chart I want to point out here. This is, and the next chart that I'll show is a much clearer picture on this. Here's a simple way of understanding this chart. If you see blue, that's good. That means wallets of all sizes are buying. If you see red, that's bad. That means wallets of all sizes are selling for the most part. And so what you see here, that run up to $69,000, you see a lot of blue and then a little hesitation, and then that dip down to, you know, lower 40s in September, late September, early October. Lots of blue all the way up to $67,000. And then just red, we got another, you know, short bounce up to $69,000. But then here's the thing that, you know, I don't think a lot of people realize is that from that $67,000 peak in October, you know, when it started dipping after the November peak, a lot of people were saying, oh, whales are buying the dip, whales are buying the dip. And actually, no, they weren't. You know, wallets under 10 Bitcoin, so fish, small fish, minnows, whatever you want to call them, shrimp, they were buying steadily from $69,000 all the way down. Whales were not buying. They just weren't. And so if you heard anyone say anything like that, I mean, I could pinpoint some whales who were buying, but none of them were. I mean, well, for the most part, they were selling more than they were buying. But here's just a little bit of encouragement that I'm seeing right now is, you know, we're starting to see some dark blue on this chart again.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you compare this to the summer lull that we had, I mean, for most of the time when Bitcoin was in the 30s, there wasn't really heavy buying until the very end of that dip, that lull, you know. And so then there was heavy buying, and that's what caused us to ride the price up.
How do you think they're able to, and guys, you need to understand one thing though. A lot of times when we talk about whales, it's not just individuals, right? It's also some of these exchanges, you know, that are doing large OTC deals, over the counter deals and whatnot. But what I want to ask Alex is, do you think it's because right now the crypto market is largely unregulated, that they are literally, like we talk about, having these dinner dates, right? Where they're literally like, how are they able to time it so freaking well? You can look at that chart and you see, and then all of a sudden, unless it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy that all of a sudden when all the whales start buying, everybody else follows suit. I don't know. We say swim with the whales. Part of me thinks though, they know when we're at the bottom, but we don't. So why? How are we getting to that point?
I mean, they certainly have better information than we do.
Yeah.
But you know, there's times that they actually didn't time things all that well. I mean, look again, another thing that this chart would communicate to me, if I can zoom in here, I mean, I'll zoom in a little bit, but they were buying into that $67,000 October peak, which communicates to me that they were, just like a lot of us were expecting Bitcoin to go well over six figures, you know, well over $100,000. But then something tipped them off, because, you know, they do have better information, more information than we do. They didn't buy after that. So I think that they sensed that something was wrong. And so they got, I don't know what they were able to look at. I mean, there's plenty of people who I could refer you to, or refer people listening to, at least, who, you know, would say, hey, I saw it too. And this is where I would say, like, technical analysis does have an advantage over on-chain analytics, is that I think a lot of the super heavy TA guys could tell after that first peak at $67,000, hey, something's off right now. Whereas I've never said on-chain is good for short term. I've said, you know, it's more so for medium and long term. So I didn't answer your question, but I'll stop there.
I know, I totally, I'm with you. And the thing that you know, we talk about a lot of medium to long term here on Debate Crypto, because ultimately that's kind of what we're looking at, right? Are Miguel and I trading at this point? Yeah, absolutely we are. Are we teaching people some of what we're learning? Yes, absolutely. However, as a general rule, we are trying to educate people so that they can make better decisions long term. And so that's what we talk about a lot. And that's why we like the on-chain metrics. I think that's part of the reason why I resonate with you so much, Alex, when I listen and watch your videos, because the metrics and the charts that you pull up. I remember the first time Miguel and I had a discussion about you independently of, like, your name came up, and we both were like right on the same wavelength with the fact that, like, man, I really like what he uses to back up what, you know what I mean? And I just love the metrics that you're able to. So I do have a question for you. Do you have like a little treasure trove of websites that you might want to share of where you're grabbing all these on-chain metrics? Or are you going to keep that to yourself?
No, I mean, if you look at my screen, so all right, here's the deal. Glassnode.com is the holy grail for me.
Yeah,
but
it's $800 a
level $800 a month, and I am hoping that after the next halving that I will be in a position where I'm willing. Am I willing to pay? Am I able to pay $800 a month right now? Sure, yes, I am. Am I willing? That's $10,000 a year. I'm just not willing.
Yeah, no.
But what I do is I search all over the place. Well, I mean, look. You can see the Twitter logos. I mean, I snipe this stuff from Twitter. This one in particular is from Ecoinometrics on Twitter. But I look for Glassnode charts all over Twitter. So it's just like, you know, the big things that I look for. We've talked about illiquid supply. I look for, there's 4 big things that I look for when I'm trying to figure out, am I bullish or bearish? What are long-term holders doing? What are short-term holders doing? What are miners doing? And what's going on with funding, with, you know, longing, shorting, how pretty or ugly does that look? And so scour the internet trying to find those things, basically. There's another place that I'd recommend checking out, and that's called Santiment. I think it's called santiment.com. Yeah, recommend that.
Okay.
So,
hey, just side note, is it, so I knew it was incredibly expensive. I honestly don't even know how much. Is it really $800 a month?
It's $800 a month if you pay an annual subscription. So it's more than that.
I was being a little aggressive, or I thought I was being sarcastic a little bit. I thought it was literally like $500 or $600 a month. It literally is that much. It's almost 10 grand.
It is. Yeah, and I will one day pay that, but not right now.
Do you?
That's wild.
Hold on a second. Now let's be. We can be real. We can be real right now. It doesn't matter that we're live. Dude, Alex, I believe this is what I believe. I believe you have a big enough audience with the combination of Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok that you could be able to reach out to them, and I think they'd give you an account. That's what I think. Swear to God, I do.
I mean, I haven't tried hard. I've emailed them. I've contacted them on Twitter. I would love to.
We're gonna make that our mission. Let's get together as a group. Let's get together as a group and see if we can't snipe a
that'd be awesome.
Glassnode membership. That'd be dope.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
So Alex, so what do you think is happening that short term the price is so negative, yet, you know, on-chain metrics are positive? Like what's happening there? Yeah, so a couple of things. I can just flow through this a little bit because this is right in line here. So if you want to make this one bigger, this is huge in my opinion. And we can see what drives upward movements in the price is, well, all right, let me just say it like this. Long-term holders will create some kind of a floor that it's going to be very difficult to penetrate. And even in 2018, you know, we were holding $6,000. It was a miserable year. The most miserable year, in my opinion, in crypto existence was 2018. We were holding this floor, and it just it felt like forever that we were going to hold it. But what was the thing that drove us finally to break that floor? It was miners. The miners capitulated. They dumped it. You know, price cut in half in a matter of a week or so. I don't remember the exact timing. It was around November of 2018 going into 2019. But the thing that tends to drive the price up is this big short-term holder excitement. And so you see that in 2017,
And we're never going to be able, short-term holders are never, it says that, the short-term holders peaked a little over 6 million Bitcoin. That's never going to happen again, because there isn't that much supply available for short-term holders to get. Yeah. So we had this run up here in April, May. The short-term holder supply peaked in April. And that was the big thing that drove the price from, $20,000 in December to $65,000 on April 14th. And if you look at it now, I mean, so many amazing things from this chart. Short-term holders, I mean, retail, whoever you want to call it, there's very little interest in Bitcoin right now. There's just, we've got to face the facts about that. But we reached an all-time high, a new all-time high, when there was barely any interest in Bitcoin. And so the thing that's keeping the price low right now, I would say, is just there's very little interest from people who haven't built that conviction, from people who are, just trying to make a quick buck, whatever you want to call them, from retail holders, from people who are new to the space. And so that's why we're low right now. And then you combine that with the fact that, here's the econometrics chart, that whales and small fish all together from $69,000 down until just very recently, like, they have been selling more than they've been buying.
You want to know, you want to know what kind of something that I've been kind of kicking around, and I think I'd love to hear your both of your input on this. Miguel, I don't even know that I've said this to you. I've been kicking this around that, okay, so Bitcoin doesn't have the interest that it once had as of right now. Okay. We hear on a pretty regular basis, especially from newer people to the market. I'll even go as far as to say something about, like, my dad. Okay. The response is, well, if I'm going to get into something, I don't know that Bitcoin's probably the place for me, because I'm, for one reason or the other, but ultimately what they're saying is it's already run up so much that, like, how much more room could I possibly have? Now, albeit I believe that it is not the most educated question. And when I say it, I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm just saying, like, there's still tons of room to run, long term, with some patience in Bitcoin. But that's the first thing. Okay. So I think we hear a lot of that. Okay. The second thing is, there is so many freaking projects, and there is so much money in DeFi, and there's so much money in NFTs, and there's so I'm looking at it and I'm wondering, right? We have that global market cap, but does that actually include all of these NFTs and all of the, like, I don't know. I guess I'd have to look. Maybe you know that, but I think that it's so spread. It's so just every freaking where that maybe that and because Bitcoin is what drives the train, and people know that, well, maybe the money is there, but it's just not all piled into Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin is what drives the train. So everybody's looking at Bitcoin and saying, well, when the heck is Bitcoin going to take off? Maybe the funds are actually there, but they're just not in Bitcoin. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Am I making sense here? We picking up what I'm laying down here?
I could throw out some numbers if that's cool with you. BlockchainCrusader. All right. And NFTs, people tend to think that the big hype with all right. So in the spring, we had this. There were definitely signs of froth, definitely a lot of bubbles, and that was mostly directed in the meme coin area. And so a lot of people are claiming that NFTs was that. We just couldn't see it, that was where the bubble was. But I looked it up, and I've done research. NFTs peaked at a $22 billion market cap. That's just not that much in the total crypto. That would put it as like the 13th largest cryptocurrency when it peaked. So no, that's not the answer.
Okay.
And the total crypto market cap peaked at $750 billion in 2017, 2018, around that time. And it's peaked at $3 trillion this time around. And so, there's a lot of projects, but still, I mean, 4X. 4X is significant. Yeah. But if you compare, that's just not the kind of diminishing returns that would, in my opinion, signify a peak for this cycle as far as the total crypto market cap is concerned.
Okay. So when you look at it, you're saying that, hey, we still, from what you're looking at in terms of basically the whole picture, you're still saying, hey, we've still got a run coming. We've still got something coming. We haven't seen it yet. What we saw, you don't think was it and just spread out.
In some ways, what we saw in April was it. You could, again, this chart on my screen, you could make an argument that was the peak of hysteria for the cycle. But there are a few things that I would man, am I going to say this? All right, I'm going to have to say it now. We knew this was coming. We knew that the excitement, the mania was coming, and that this was, I would compare this to kind of like a premature ejaculation. Sorry, I'm sorry, family. The reason why, in my opinion, that happened, I blame it very much on Elon Musk and Tesla. Yeah. I think what would have happened is that we would not have seen that kind of euphoria, excitement happen. It would have like just gone up steadily like it did in 2018. Maybe we would have had, like, you know, if you could see that mini bump before the big run up in 2017, that we would have had something like that. And then we would have the big run up. But then when Tesla entered in, that drove Bitcoin's price up. I remember that morning waking up, having breakfast, $5,000 in 10 minutes when they announced that they bought Bitcoin. And then all of a sudden explosion. And that led to a premature peak of the cycle. Right. Yeah. And so for us to then have to wait, I would say we've been in a bear market since April by this metric right here. For us to have to wait until the next, I think that there's going to be something. I don't think it's going to be as significant as this, as far as the mania is concerned. But even if it's a fraction of it, it can drive Bitcoin over 6 figures, and it can drive Ethereum wherever, you know, in correlation to Bitcoin, maybe $10,000 or something like that. And that is in store before. I just read a comment, shame on me. Anyway, that is in store before the next halving. So,
yeah, I think there's been a lot of distractions this cycle with the NFT space, DeFi, you know, all these things. A lot of people are, instead of just buying Bitcoin and having a long-term vision of what Bitcoin can do for you, everyone's trying to do that get rich quick scheme, right? Everyone's out there watching Gary Vee talking about the hustle and flipping NFTs, right? And they see this 1 or 2 people bought a Bored Ape Club and became rich overnight out of their basement with an ape, right? And they're all there trying to snipe the next NFT. A lot of people are trying to put all this money into DeFi to get into these crazy DAOs, right? With all these crazy APYs and throwing money at it left and right just to try to get rich overnight. And I think that's causing a big distraction in the market from the retail side, right? I don't think institutions or whales are distracted with that noise. They see the value in Bitcoin, but yeah, a lot of retail is very distracted with all that other stuff.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see, you know, the one thing that I've said, not to be the bear in the room, but the one thing I've talked about a lot is diminishing returns. And I'm a math guy. And when I look at, you know, when I hear the comparison made, I would like to believe that we still have another big run in us, right? I really would. But when I hear the comparisons made between 2017 and now, the reality is the amount of capital that's in the market now, just like you just said, versus then, right? I always explain it this way. It is how much easier to move something from 1 million to 2 million than to move something from 1 billion to 2 billion or from 1 trillion to 2 trillion. And so I think when people start looking at percentages and say, well, I mean, we 20x'd last run, like, and you're telling me we're only going to go up, you know, 2x now on, or 60, really we're up like 60%, I think, since last year this time or whatever, and that's all we're gonna get. Like, I just can't accept that. And I try to explain, like, listen, I get where your mind's at, but the reality is you're not comparing the exact same thing. You're just not. You can't continue to have a 20x on 20x on 20x on 20. It just doesn't work like that. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been more of a. It just makes sense that there would be diminishing returns, and I think it was like more like 40x from the first ever peak at $32 to the next peak, and then 20x, and so I was thinking more like a 10x, or maybe a little 8x or something like that.
Right.
What is it?
Hey, we could stay. I'm not saying we can't have it. We could still have it. We need some sort of catalyst, though, I feel like, and that's what we don't have right now, it feels like.
Yeah, that's exactly. I fully agree with you on that. We must have a catalyst, in my opinion, or I think we're just going to range between $30,000 and $60,000 for the rest of the year, maybe even the rest of the cycle.
That would be so boring.
So
that would be very boring.
Well, you think it would be boring, but it starts to get over 50 and starts playing around, and then everybody's longing, and then we get dumped on with a long squeeze, and I didn't even. What were you gonna say, Miguel?
So do you think we're in an extended cycle, or do you think that this is just part of the cycle? We already topped, it's over, and now we're just kind of heading into a different type of bear market, but nonetheless we're not headed back up to an all-time high until the next Bitcoin halving?
I think a catalyst is there's several potential catalysts that I think one of them will happen. And so, all right, no catalysts, then we have this different kind of bear market where I would say, like, in my mind, the big thing that I have been focusing on is the 200-week simple moving average, which typically marks a bear market bottom, that Bitcoin goes down to there, never has a monthly close below the 200-week simple moving average, never has in its history. My hope by the next halving is that moving average is at $50,000. Whatever happens between now and then, if Bitcoin goes up to $300,000 and then dumps right back down, but then that average is at $50,000 by the next halving, I'm good. But there's too many potential catalysts between now and March of 2024 or April of 2024, whenever the next halving is, in my opinion. I think one of those will happen. A spot Bitcoin ETF, the Fed reversing on these 4 interest rates that are priced in the market right now, which that's my area of expertise professionally. Before I got into being self-employed, I was a mortgage agent. My livelihood depended on interest rates, and I can just tell you the biggest threat to the US dollar, to the economy, is the interest on our national debt.
Okay, let's pause. Let's pause right there. I'm glad you said that. Miguel and I have this ongoing dispute, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah.
So I am of the opinion that if we don't start rate hikes, right, we are going to print ourselves into oblivion. We are going to print ourselves to hyperinflation. If we do continue, if we don't start doing that, we're screwed that way. If we do start rate hikes and we get a little bit too aggressive with them, right, then we put ourselves into stagflation, which ultimately leads to deflation, but it saves the reserve currency status that the dollar currently holds. Which of those two camps, or maybe a third camp, but which of those two camps do you believe that we're going to be heading towards?
We're screwed either way. I mean, it's like, but I mean, at the same time, I'm really sensitive to people who are like, there's no doubt in my mind there's going to be a crash in 2022. Like, I've been a bear on the US economy since 2010, and I remember in 2010 being like, any day now, any day the stock market's going to crash, and it never did. You hear
that, Nick? Keep on waiting.
and so so I saw, I don't watch around the blockchain very much, but I saw that BitBoy thinks that we have to raise rates, And I'm just saying, all right, we've been lowering rates for 40 years. And any time that we've tried to raise rates, there's a certain point where we hit a level and everything just gets crushed.
Yeah.
It crumbles. And so that would be the worst case scenario in my mind, as far as if they raise rates and we have a 2008 crash, they're going to reverse really hard, and they're going to be like, they're going to try to massage this 7% interest, inflation, which we all know is much higher than that anyway. But 7% inflation, they're going to try to like convince us that that's good and that's needed. But I think they're going to turn before that. I mean, I really do. They always have.
How do we? So you think we'll print? You think we'll continue to print? You think we'll move towards
printing, baby?
Inflation?
Make that machine
I think so, because of the pressure. So right now, the pressure is greater to do something about inflation. I think at some point that's going to shift to the pressure being greater to prevent a recession.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the midterm elections coming up, right? And no politician wants to go in there.
I do agree with that.
Being in control, trying to get reelected and say, well, stock market is crashing right now because we raised interest rate hikes and all the assets are crashing.
Yeah, but he already knows everyone he's screwed anyway.
But the average person doesn't know that, right? The average person just knows how to look at the stock market, and they're told stock market down, oh, economy bad. Stock market up, economy good, right?
Yeah,
that's all they know, and that's all politicians know how to point at to make themselves look good.
Yeah.
And so doing that, I think, would be a big mistake for them. I don't think they're that dumb. I think they know exactly what they're doing. And the whole money printing thing that I always tell Nick is, it's like a pressure cooker, right? They can ease off the pressure and maybe slow down the printing, but they can't stop the printing, because there's just so much is happening with the economy, and we've passed a threshold that we can no longer return, right? The dollar has been damaged so badly already that there is no reverse now. It's just put bandages on and slow the bleeding, but the death is coming regardless.
Man, I'll be interested to see which way that rolls out. Either way, I like what you said though, Alex. Either way, we're kind of screwed, which actually leads me to kind of this super chat here. Dave, by the way, you are the man. Thank you very much for the super chat, brother. Dave is in the Debate Crypto Academy and the DCA fam represent, bruh. Thank you for the super chat. So he wants to know what Alex thinks about Let's Go Brandon's executive order and its effect on crypto.
One thing I will say, this is a wholly unique time, by the way. So maybe you're right, and they do raise interest rates because they've never had this looming thing of inflation hanging over them. So how do they act in that regard? I just think it's gonna be really rough, and that there'll be, crash, recession, whatever,
turmoil some way.
Yeah. So as far as Biden, I might be a little bit confused about this, because I saw a Joshua Jake TikTok that basically said that he's just assigning to certain people that they're going to have 3 to 6 months to research for proposals that they're going to make as far as regulation on crypto. But then I might be hearing some other things that it's actually potentially going to go much faster. Do you guys know more about that than I don't know. So
Miguel,
I don't know too much about the executive order. I do know that after Russia came out and saying that they were going to be pro Bitcoin, right? Pro Bitcoin mining.
Yeah.
Biden responded with that quickly, saying that the United States, that Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies is a threat to national security or whatever, so they need to get on the ball somehow. I think it's just a way of them trying to catch up and not being left behind by a major country like Russia.
Let me share my screen here. Check this out.
Yeah. I do know that they also have that America Competes Act going on too, with Janet Yellen, with the whole little secret clause that could technically ban crypto. Big Boys brought that up as well. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll be interested to see what happens here. I'm just going to read a little blurb here. The White House is working on an executive order that will detail the government's strategy on cryptocurrencies. The Joe Biden administration has reportedly directed federal agencies to outline the risks and opportunities of digital assets per a Bloomberg report. Individual federal agencies like the Financial Stability Oversight Council and the Securities and Exchange Commission had so far been taking a scattershot approach in regulating cryptocurrencies. However, the White House faced continuous pressure from the cryptocurrency industry executives who raised concern over the lack of clarity on the rules. The Bloomberg report suggests that the executive order, which will detail the economic, regulatory, and national security challenges that cryptocurrencies pose, may be released as early as next month. The final draft of the executive order is expected to be presented to President Biden in the coming few weeks, per the Bloomberg report.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a
we've also seen that the IMF came out again repeating to El Salvador that, you know, continuously holding Bitcoin as legal tender is a risk to financial stability. So they are you know, shitting their pants with more countries legalizing Bitcoin, especially if Russia starts to get along that side and get more pro Bitcoin. You know, they get around the sanctions, they start losing more power over other countries, and other countries like Russia getting pro Bitcoin will basically be saying F you, the US dollar, right? And it's an indirect attack to the US dollar. And it's almost like a Cold War going on between them.
Yeah. And I see, Miguel, I like that you said it that way, because I also see, you know, part of what I had read was that Joe Biden was basically suggesting that they needed to figure this out now because cryptocurrency is a threat to national security. Okay. So part of what, you know, when I hear that, you know what, it just rings over and over in my head as absolute FUD for one, right? And so like that's
it's not FUD. It is true.
Well, hold on a second. But what I'm trying to say is, well, first of all, I don't think that that's the truth, right? I think that I think that it is a media spin, just like freaking every other thing. You're literally about to tell me that you think that we got to get the regulations on cryptocurrencies because it's a national security.
Of course it is. How is it not a
matter of national security?
Of course it is. Bitcoin will kill the US dollar. Right, it's the competition that they can't handle.
That's not an issue of national security. That's an issue.
If your currency dies, your national security, you're losing power to other countries that adopt.
That's an issue of his. That's an issue of his ability to have power over all of the things that he wants to continue to be able to control.
It's a national security issue, bro. If you lose power over other countries through sanctions, whatever, the world reserve status. That is, so we should
keep doing what you're talking about, Miguel, and keep printing so we can go into hyperinflation and lose that, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's happening regardless, right? It's happening regardless. At the end of the day, when you're the captain of the Titanic, you only have two options, right? Just go down with the ship, or just pretend like nothing's happening, right? It's in trying to keep people in control, that everything's under control. They have no other solution. Every empire has fallen. They don't. Every empire has fallen.
They push us into a recession.
No, they can't. We have crossed a threshold where we cannot save the dollar, no matter what we do with it. We cannot, right? We just can't.
Nah,
I can't.
I respect.
Every empire has fallen.
Disagree.
Every empire has fallen around 274 years, and they've all usually been caused because they've been spread too thin through money manipulation. They can't save their currency. All the currencies go to zero.
I'm going to tag in Alex.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I mean, what you guys are talking about is why I came up with my name. I saw a comment there from my friend Samson, World War Bitcoin. It's like, you know, I just think for a long time that governments have been asleep at the wheel, that that cryptocurrencies, it may not be Bitcoin. I am in many ways a Bitcoin maximalist, but in many ways not a Bitcoin maximalist. I will be perfectly fine if it's something else. But it's a disruptor. You know, I mean, we could talk about Netflix and Blockbuster and all that stuff, and I see it as some form of a disruptor. I see fiat currency as power that that governments have over people. And so when I hear the words national security, it's like, yeah, well, we don't want to lose this power. We don't even want to lose a little bit of this power that we have, not only, you know, for the United States, over the United States, but over many parts of the globe as a global reserve currency. And we do see rightly Bitcoin as a threat to that, or other cryptos as a threat to that. And so, I mean, whatever, like, is the US dollar going to die? Well, the US dollar died in 1971, and it has a name, the same name, but a different.
That is not the same, Miguel. That is not the same comparison. But
it's the same. It's the same thing.
Got you.
Go ahead, Alex.
So I do think that it'll have the same name, but a different function one day, and that it may be that crypto has some contribution to that. You know, but I mean, all right. The thing that I was saying though, the difficult thing with interest rates is I don't hear anyone else saying this. This is something I realized a long time ago, just looking at the numbers, looking at the percentages of increase. If you look at the federal budget right now, it's a small piece of the interest on our national debt is a small piece of the pie. But at one point, maybe not in my lifetime, I'm 40 years old, but in other people's lifetimes, like other, you know, if you're 20 or something like that, the interest alone on our national debt on our current trajectory will be as much, or it will be greater than the entire United States GDP. That is unsustainable.
27 trillion at what, like at what percent are you calculating that? I'm trying to just figure out what.
So that's the deficit. I'm talking about the GDP, which is like, I think around $3 trillion right now. And so, so you raise, I don't have the numbers in my head. I'd have to pull it up.
No, I'm not questioning you at all. I was just saying, are you going off of the $27 trillion of actual debt and adding interest to that? What is that? Where you're getting that from?
I'm just looking at the rate of increase. I've looked at the rate of increase in interest on the national debt.
That's nuts.
And and so what happens? You know, like. House of cards. I've been saying that for a long time. It's a house of cards.
So we're effectively chopping our nose off to spite our face in the event that we raise interest rates in an attempt to quote unquote save the dollar, because at the end of it, on the backside of it, we've created so much more. Okay. And then on the other end, we freaking print into oblivion and we create hyperinflation and they have to flop anyway. And so what's the happy medium? The happy medium is we have a global crisis of some sort that we're able to point at, and we say, oh, you know what? Just like the Hegelian dialectic, I've talked about this a number of times. They present the problem and then they present us with the solution, and they say, hey, here is the digital dollar. This will solve our problems. And then next 274 years, we'll continue to mess with that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Or, you know, I mean, one way to get this debt crisis under control is hyperinflation. You know, just inflate the dollar into oblivion and then pay it off. So maybe at some point they just decide, all right, you know what? Hyperinflation, whatever, not maybe they won't call it hyperinflation, but inflation is good to get this under control, you know, to get, I don't know, man.
Ultimately, I wonder, like, so the reality is if you look closely at it, and I don't know what the percentage is, but a lot of the debt that is owed is to ourselves, right? So theoretically, in this big house of cards, as we're calling it, right? Well, theoretically, we could knock down the house of cards. And this is where I don't know, and I don't want to speak out of turn here. This is where I am not an economist, so I don't know how this would truly work. But it would seem as if the debt was owed to ourselves, right? A lot of that debt was owed to ourselves, and we're just printing it right off of a printer anyway. It's not actually backed by anything anymore. It would seem as if a sleight of hand maneuver of some sort, you know, i.e. What's the word I'm looking for? Like a cyber pandemic, as they've been running, you know, little scenarios for. It would seem that very quickly, all of a sudden, what debt? I mean, what debt do you speak of? It all got washed out when the cyber pandemic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. It's
maybe
it's a real shame, but you know, I don't know.
Wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, anything's possible. Alex, I wanted to ask you, I saw you talking about the what's it called? The Arizona situation where they're trying to make Bitcoin legal tender there, and you're saying that it's not gonna pass. What are the implications there? Why do you think that that's not going to happen?
Well, the Arizona thing was way overhyped. It was one particular official who introduced a bill. I mean, I've heard of plenty, hundreds of thousands. How many bills? I don't even know the statistics here, but how many bills are introduced that actually get passed? This one particular woman, I don't, what do you call her? Not a congresswoman, a representative, brought this bill forward. And looking at her Twitter account, for one, I mean, she's a little crazy, so I wouldn't be surprised. I don't remember her name.
Okay, no worries.
But a little crazy. Wouldn't be surprised if she was one of those people who just introduces bills and they're like, oh, it's her again, and she gets rejected. But then there's code in, I don't want to say the Constitution. It might be in the Constitution. I don't know. Something that I read that it's like, it's not the legality of making of a state making Bitcoin legal tender is in question. And the wording that I read, which if I had known we were going to talk about this, I would have brought it up. But the wording that I read, in my opinion, makes it seem that it's very unlikely that any state is going to be able to make Bitcoin.
But I heard that making it the legal tender is going to be very difficult, but making it an option as a legal tender on the ballot and still leaving the US dollar. I heard someone else suggest that today. I don't even remember where I heard it, but
you know, it's probably going to be decided by a court somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're going to do the job of interpreting the law, and what are they going to do?
And that would be semantics anyway, you know.
Right.
It's the versus an option versus the or whatever. I did want to say real quick, Miguel, thanks James for the diaper fund, brother. He needs
I appreciate
real. His listen, my baby knows how to put it down, but apparently Miguel's baby has done some serious diaper action over there. So he needs it.
Oh, man.
He needs it. Thanks, James.
Yeah, man. I think it's like, imagine of what the biggest threat is, that now we've depended, you know, the government depends on the Federal Reserve to create the money and manage all the money, right? And there's a power there between those people and that structure. And now allowing states to just say, well, we're just going to, from left field, pull this currency over here and say, we're going to use this now, right? Whether the US dollar still stays, right, they can coexist or not. It's a threat, right? Back to the national security thing. It's a threat that to the structure that exists, saying, wait a minute, we're the ones supposed to be controlling the money. We decide what money is and what money isn't in this country. You can't just come in here and take that power away from us and start doing it. It's a huge threat. I think that's why administrations are afraid of it.
Yeah, with where we're at, and actually I thought this was a funny comment. Kryptonon says today's Wednesday, because we do What If Wednesday on Wednesday nights, Alex, where we dive into some but ultimately I think that all of this matters. I think somebody that maybe just jumped in and is like wait a minute, like why are we talking about all of this? Well, if you don't pay attention to all of this, then you genuinely have no real footing or grounded idea of if you don't have an idea of what's happening in our government, then how are you going to have some sort of a good standing on what's going to happen as it relates to our currency? And guess what? News flash to every single person, right? And I'm sure most of you know this, but he who controls the money has all the power. And ultimately there's a power struggle right now. And if you really extrapolate it out, you've heard people talk about this a lot, but you've heard people talk about 40% of all of the money ever printed has been printed in the last 18 months. We've never experienced that before. So we are not only in a place where we have this newer option for currency, which is digital, which is cryptocurrency, which is Bitcoin, which is all of these different things that have never been around before, never been quote unquote back tested farther back than 2009. You know what I mean?
And out of the control of the state.
Yes. And taking the control away from the people who so viciously want to control everything you do. I mean, all you got to do is look around to figure out what that looks like. I won't even get into that. And so I think it's a perfect storm, and it makes me wonder, where does this go? Where does this end? Because we ultimately Miguel, you called it national security threat. The fact that in your mind you hear it that way tells me that there is and I'm not saying you're wrong for thinking that way. What I'm saying is, if you hear it that way, I can only imagine what the people that actually hold that freaking power feel like. I mean, man, we have a storm brewing. Yep. And I think it's going to be very interesting. And I will say, last little thought here, I think we are going to have an opportunity this next few months, next couple of years, whatever. I don't know when it'll be, what it'll be, whatever. But I believe that we will have an opportunity, maybe like no other, to pick up crypto on some sort of, massive thing like happened in March. If you didn't get to take advantage in March 2020, maybe I think you're going to get another opportunity at some point before too long as part of the financial crisis that we're going to go.
What do you think about that, Alex? Do you think that, a lot of people are calling for a 20K Bitcoin, even 15K Bitcoin? Do you think that is possible with any of the on-chain metrics that we're seeing?
I think it's possible if we have another minor capitulation, and but I don't think it's going to, I would say probability wise that $30,000 range is the bottom. But if so, I mean, one thing that I've said is that I would have my eyes around that 200-week simple moving average. It's at $19,300 right now. Yeah. So it'll wick below there if it does. 18,000 or so would be a phenomenal buying opportunity. I'm not. I mean, how many black swan events have we had? I think we talk too much about black swan events. So
I don't disagree with you on that.
I
disagree with you on that.
So if we have a black swan event, yes. If we have something that would cause miners to capitulate, yes. I would say still probability wise that it's much lower that's going to happen. So
So it is. Do you believe? Let's talk about the bear market, bull market thing. And I'm starting to be of the mindset that it doesn't truly matter. And I'm kind of I hate to say it, but I'm kind of with Miguel on this. I kind of am starting to believe that we are going to move into these bearish periods, bullish periods, and we're not truly going to continue to have like these just set cycles. Right now we're outside of one. It doesn't mean we can't rein it back in and then roll back into it. How do you see that? How do you see that playing out? What's your personal opinion on that?
Man, oh my goodness. Okay. So what happened in 2017, 2013, it's like we saw the pattern, expected the pattern to play out again, and the market's always going to keep us on our toes. And so that's what it's done. It's kept us on our toes. And so for it to look exactly like it's looked in the past, I mean, it's clear that those days are over. But just what does that mean? Does that mean that $69,000 was the peak for this cycle? And
that's kind of what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Do we lose 85% of our value from the cycle top to the bottom? I would vehemently argue against the bottom being 85% down from the top, based off of everything that I'm seeing with long-term holders.
It's like a 13K Bitcoin or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's hard for me. It's so hard for me to believe that if 30K is the bottom, we've never had a weekly close below the 1.618 Fibonacci retracement level, 61.8% higher than the previous cycle top after crossing it, which was just right around $30,000. So let's say that's the floor, and let's say we do keep that, which I do believe we will. For us to range between $30,000 and $69,000 between now and 2024, I don't believe that's going to happen. whether we go below or above, I believe one of those things, and I think 30K is a good floor. So
we're gonna have some sort of a movement, and you're of the opinion that, hey, that movement at some point, whether we draw back down quickly or not, is going to be north of where we've been and not south. You feel like 30 is a good floor.
And even that's such a small window that even if we went to 18,000 or dare I say even 12,000, I would still not be convinced that $69,000 was the top for this cycle. I mean, we could even do that. Wow. Now there one other thing I'll say, there are some people who I don't know if you've seen any of Crypto Weatherman's recent stuff, or there's some other people I follow who think that we're about to have a major melt up and then a huge crash. So
yes, I have
just
seen that.
Throwing that out there as well. So
do you think that's gonna happen? Do you think we're gonna have a quick little pump and then maybe a dump?
Man, if I had never seen those videos, or there's somebody who I follow on Twitter, I'd strongly recommend him. He's a stock guy, David Hunter. He really believes that's going to happen and has made a compelling case for it. If I hadn't seen any of that, I would have said we're going to range for 2022 unless there's a catalyst, which I could see there being. So
XRP, would you consider that to be a catalyst for Bitcoin? The XRP case.
All right, personal opinion of XRP, of Ripple aside, I think if they were to win the SEC suit, that's on my list of catalysts for the whole crypto market. Yes.
You hear that, Miguel?
That doesn't mean
I'm still hoping it doesn't happen. I'd rather see a 15K Bitcoin. I'd rather see a 15K Bitcoin first than see XRP win.
Oh my god! Yeah, no, I think you know what, Alex. One of the things that this has taught me, though, in the almost 5 years that I've been in crypto, one thing that I've learned, but that I really need to be reminded of, is that you just never know what the heck is going on. And I feel right now more than I have ever felt, and it kind of makes me feel bad because like we have this great social media following that looks to us, not for financial decisions or advice, but just for some guidance, and they like to bounce ideas and hear what we have to say. And it almost makes me feel bad to say it out loud with 50 people in here, and say I'm more unsure right now than I've ever been about the markets. But I think that I think that almost anyone else that doesn't say that, I would argue that they would be almost lying to you. We are in absolutely unknown territory right now. So I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at with it.
So Alex, I want to ask you. So you think that without a catalyst event between now and the next Bitcoin halving, we could just possibly be ranging, right? Just up and down kind of situation?
No, I'll just say that for 2022, not
just
for
2022.
Yeah. What I did say earlier is, all right, could you pull up that chart again? My screen.
Yeah.
All right. Given the fact that we reached $69,000, if you're seeing where my mouse is, with pretty much very, very, very little short-term holder interest, I think that even if we had something like that 2019 run where Bitcoin went from that bear market bottom at $3,000 to $14,000, that's not a ton of interest. But even if we had something like that, I think that Bitcoin could go over six figures. And I think that at least a new all-time high would be put in. And for us to not have something like that between now and the beginning, the next halving, it's just, there's no world where I could see that happening, that it would just, retail interest would just flatline between now and 2024. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as the non-catalyst scenario. And I would expect something like that to happen in 2023 or late 2022. So
yeah, do you see that's the non-catalyst catalyst, right? I always think it's interesting comparing the previous cycles, comparing what's happened before. And it's like, you hear the cliche where it's like, hey, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, and and then you throw that on top of what's happening right now, and it's like, where's the rhyme? Right? I mean, literally right now we're just kind of in this area where it's like, what's going on. And so I think that it's going to be exciting to see, but I think that it's going, and CVO's talked about this with us on Thursdays, and I really agree with him right now, because we're in uncharted territories. I think the scary thing is that there's going to be more confusion right now and moving forward probably into this year than possibly ever before, because there isn't something to look back on. There isn't something, the TA can only take you so far. The on-chain metrics can only take you so far. And then you don't get to see what these backroom handshake deals look like. And I think it's interesting to see.
But I've been thinking about that too, right? I've been thinking about that too, about the uncharted waters scenario. And I've realized, like, Bitcoin's always in uncharted waters. It's never uncharted waters, right? The whole revolution of crypto is an uncharted water journey, right? So we're always going to be in this state of confusion until maybe 100 years go by, right? And then the crypto market has become kind of like the stock market history, where we feel more comfortable in it. But I feel like for the rest of our lives, we're always going to be in uncharted waters when it comes to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. That's just
because it's a changing and evolving and growing. I agree.
It's such a disruptor to the traditional system, right? And like, it's just changed everything by force, whether they wants to change or not. And it's such a young. It's only 13 years of Bitcoin, right? Everything else is less than 10 years. So it's such a short period of history so far that we're always going to be in uncharted water. We are literally like the Lewis and Clark of this situation. We're always going to be lost. We're never going to know where we're going.
Columbus over here. I'm Christopher's cousin, Nicholas. I've been exploring new Bitcoin uncharted waters. Hey, Alex, remind me, do you trade? Do you actively trade?
No. I mean,
I was just going to ask if you were doing any active trading when all of this ranging and whatnot was going on. I didn't remember whether you actively traded or not.
So, Alex, we got a super chat here. Quick question, and then I have a follow-up question. So, what are your top meta and PTE play to earn gaming coins, if you have any?
Yeah. So,
Thanks,
overall
Dave.
thesis of metaverse. Goldman has estimated that Meta is going to be an $8 trillion industry. Amazing. I mean, like, all right, entire crypto market cap, it's 1.7 trillion right now. Lots of potential with metaverse. And I do think that, Mana and Sandbox and a lot of those bigger ones are going to have a place in that. I also very strongly believe that the king of metaverse cryptos is something that does not exist yet. So ear to the ground, trying to understand as much as possible about, like, all right, what is the future? What's the big thing? But of cryptos that do exist right now, my favorite is probably Gala Games. And because it's actually like one thing that I can't stand about Meta and play to earn is all the games suck. They're not entertaining.
I agree.
And Gala actually has some enjoyable games, and so maybe they'll get a head start in the fun games. And another one that I'd say to keep an eye on is a really small project that's hoping to put all the pieces together and create a multiverse, and that's Many Worlds. So Many Worlds is what it's called.
Many Worlds.
Many Worlds.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know if I'm familiar with that one. I'm writing this. I'm going to pull that up. Is it manyworlds.io? What is it? Do you remember?
Many Worlds. Yeah.
In the meantime, I'm going to just refer to this comment. Cameron, thank you. I greatly appreciate you thinking of me, but just send me some Bitcoin. I wouldn't appreciate the XRP. And no, I would not send it to Nick either. I wouldn't do such.
He would burn. He would burn
yes,
it.
I wouldn't do such evil to my friends. I would exercise that XRP out of existence.
I'm trying to look for this Many Worlds. I see it on Twitter. I was trying to see if there was a website.
Manyworldstoken.com.
Is it? I mean, do they actively have something going on with it right now?
They have.
Is there any bill? Is there? Oh, I see. Okay.
So I've read their entire white paper. It's mostly in development right now.
Okay.
So check it out. Yeah, the roadmap is on there. Oh, I didn't even realize you're on my screen.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I did an interview with their CEO and COO on my channel. If you want to, any of you want to check that out, judge for yourself,
On YouTube?
So, yeah, on YouTube. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll have to
Awesome.
we'll have to
So
check
Alex,
that out.
follow-up question to what I said earlier was, Nick and I have always spoken about 2030, right? 2030 being the moment of retirement, right? Of maybe not even having to cash out of
The
crypto
ability.
anymore to retire.
Sure.
Right. And then, but we've also spoken about inflation, and we've spoken about, well, what if, with hyperinflation, is it really worth having $1 million Bitcoin by 2030 if we have hyperinflation, right? So like the question is, do you think if we do have hyperinflation or just continuous inflation, let's not even call it hyperinflation, do you think Bitcoin will outperform drastically that inflation, so that even though we have a million, 2 million, whatever $1 million amount of Bitcoin is, that will still represent a hefty amount of financial freedom? Or do you think Bitcoin might not be able to outperform it?
Oh man, so many directions I could go here in my mind. I mean, if you put up, I've seen other people do this. I don't know how to pull it up on TradingView, but if you look at Bitcoin priced in with M2 money supply or M1 money supply, like we have not come close to the 2017 all-time high. And so will it be able to keep up with that kind of inflation? One thing that I will say that I'm confident about is,
please clarify real quick. You said we haven't come close to the 2017 high.
Yeah, I wish I could pull up.
You're talking about in value due to the amount of inflation we've had now, value wise, a 20K Bitcoin back then versus now.
So let me just say for M1, the amount of like actual dollars that are in the system, we haven't come close to 2017 because of all the new dollars that are in the system. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. You're saying basically that inflation has ultimately really driven a large portion of the price action that we have right now.
I don't want to say that. No,
but you're not wrong though. I mean, it's not. I mean, yeah. Okay.
I mean, Bitcoin has clearly is so. I mean, one way to look at it. All right, from 2017 high to the 2021 high, Bitcoin is 20,000. Bitcoin tripled. Has the purchasing power of the dollar gone down 2/3? It hasn't, and so it has been worth it to hold Bitcoin,
right?
In that regard, and I do believe that by 2030 it will have been worth it to hold Bitcoin. However that looks like with money supply, with other things like that, it's hard to say. I mean, one thing that I remember from studying Germany in the 1920s is like, the stock market exploded, but they could not keep up with hype. Like if it's hyperinflation, very few things are going to be able to keep up.
Yeah.
And probably not Bitcoin.
Yeah, I brought that up because I heard somebody speak about it. I forget his name. I think his name is Alex something as well. I think it's something with Alex or something. He's a big person in the macroeconomic situation and in crypto and stuff. And he basically made the statement that Bitcoin would have to be at about $12 million or so by 2030 to represent about $1 million of what $1 million is today
at the current trajectory that we're moving at.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that would be super.
Cool. One other thing for that. I would expect some kind of mind shift to happen with people, because we've already seen that. We saw in March of 2020 the level of conviction for people to hold Bitcoin just changed. Something dramatically changed in March of 2020, and between now and 2030, something would change where just it won't matter as much if Bitcoin. I don't know how to really think through that, but it won't.
Yeah.
We're not going to be worried about it in that regard.
Crypto fam, listen, well, first of all, I just want to say, Alex, dude, as always, I just love having you on. Miguel, I know I speak for Miguel as well. Like, we just enjoy having you, dude. You're just
100%.
super chill to talk to, and I just appreciate the knowledge that you bring to the table and how you back it up, just like we were telling you at the start. So thank you as always for coming on, dude. We do appreciate having you on. I do want to throw out there, Crypto fam, again. His Twitter is down below in the information. It is WW Bitcoin, correct, Alex?
Yes.
Yeah. Just WW Bitcoin on Twitter.
That's so not a fake account.
Yeah. And as a reminder, speaking of fake accounts, guys, our Twitter is now down below as well. But just remember, it is not DebateCrypto. It's DebateCrypto OG. We have a contract out for whoever that person is. So if you're watching, watch your back. Watch, we're gonna get like demonetized for me saying that, even though I'm totally kidding. So Crypto fam, listen, we appreciate each and every one of you guys. We have got a lot of people that are in the chat, blowing up the chat on a daily basis when we're in here, sending super chats. Guys, we appreciate all your support. Like, I can't stress that enough. Like, we genuinely can't thank you enough. If you guys are interested in getting a little bit more on the inside, on the inner circle, so to speak, make sure that you definitely check us out on Debate Crypto Academy. We are giving a year of Market Cypher away, and we're about to do that here really soon. So one of our Academy members is about to get a full year of Market Cypher, and I think a full year right now is like around $1,000. So I think that definitely has a lot of value. It's been helping me with my trades, and yeah. I just want to throw that out there, guys. So we do seminars every Sunday and diving into different projects, and our Telegram group will help you set up a freaking hardware wall if you want. So at any event, if you guys want to check that out, DebateCrypto.academy. So unless anyone has anything else, I just want to say thank you guys for being here, Crypto fam. We love each and every one of you. If nobody's told you before today, we love you, and we hope you guys have a blessed night. And until next time, hodl.